In this podcast, we're going to talk about Booleans, and you find them right under here. So one of the top functions that you'll find in Maya. Now, there are issues with them, and we'll kind of talk about them here, but the two main ones that you're going to maybe use would be union and difference. So let's just see what union and difference do. So if we took two just polygon cylinders, and if we just selected them here, and I hit union, you can see it actually creates one piece of mesh with the objects. Now, these are simple cylinders, so simple objects can work pretty well. You notice when we smooth, we're getting some verts that weren't merged. So there is going to be some cleanup. Now, once you go in and kind of fix everything, add your holding edges, you can get the shape that maybe you were looking for. So depending on what your starting objects are, the cleanup with some of the Booleans tools may be minimal, or it may be a little bit more extreme. So this was pretty good in that the geometry it created was usable for the most part. It was just a couple little things here and there that we needed to fix. We'll look at the difference objects now. We're going to use a couple of cubes, and basically the difference is going to create a hole in between the objects, right? So the difference between the big shape and the smaller one. So let's go ahead and run it, and you can see what it does. And we get that hole in there, but notice the geometry that you have. The geometry that you're left up with needs a lot of fixing. And in order to fix this, what I would suggest is deleting a lot of faces, keeping it flat, especially for a shape like this, fixing all the geometry to how you want it, and then going in and adding thickness and holding edges at the end. So here is a cleaned up version of the geometry, because if we were to smooth it right there, you'd see what it would look like. And even in putting in holding edges right now with these triangular shapes and n-gons everywhere, it's just not going to work. So this was about 20 minutes worth of cleanup just to get it to that point. So it's case sensitive in that depending on the case that you have and what you're actually trying to do, it may work well for you, it may not. I just want you to have in your minds that it could be a lot of cleanup at the end. Okay, so these are just using simple primitives. Now, with an object like an anvil here, which you may be coming across, we've got all these separate parts. They're not really all that complex, but Maya has a really hard time putting them together. Okay. The first one we'll do, though, is the difference, and it seems to do a little bit better with that, in that the holes are created exactly where you want and doing exactly what you would think it would do. The problem is the geometry in there. Again, when we're putting in holding edges, this is not going to work, so there's going to be a lengthy cleanup process associated with it, but at least it got us the holes where we wanted. So it may be a good starting point in certain circumstances. Other circumstances, you may want to just kind of cobble it together on your own. So for this one here, let's go ahead and we'll put them together, and then we'll put these together. And you can see when we hit 3, not too bad, but then when you get into it and actually inspect the geometry that it created, most of it is unusable. And there's a considerable amount of cleanup that needs to be applied to this object. From this distance, would it work? Sure. If we're going to get closer, then we're going to start noticing all of the issues that do arise. So use it. Just know that there may be cleanup involved after it. Okay. This is an example of the clean model. This was about an hour of cleaning after I did the various Boolean functions on the object, and it did get you there. So it's really just a matter of how you want to get there. Would I have preferred just doing it myself? Probably, because once you get these major shapes together, it's not hard to kind of put them all together and stitch them together and Frankenstein them and whatnot. But Booleans may work in some instances. Just know that simpler geometry, it's probably going to be better for you if you do decide to go ahead and use it.